This short video is brought to you by EdTech Recharge.
Throughout this segment, we will be referring back to your questions to think through which type of research might be best suited for the project and questions you have in mind. So as you're listening, think about whether the research I'm talking about is the one that suits your project. Before we go into more detail, here's what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about 3 classifications of research and go into a little more detail about each of these subcategories so you can start thinking through what are the types of research and what it is that you're actually looking for. By goal. Now here, I'm not asking the question of how do I use my research, but I'm asking the question, do I want to use my research? Sounds a little absurd, doesn't it? Especially coming from someone working in the industry. But it's an interesting and important question to think about, even if you are in the industry, even if you are an organization. Classify research based on the purpose. When I say purpose, in my mind, I'm asking the question, how do I plan to use the research that I'm creating, that I'm funding, that I'm investing in? How am I going to use the results? Now, this kind of research can be either formative or summative. Third way of classifying research might be something that a lot of you are familiar with. This classification is based on the methodology we use to conduct our research investigations, commonly broken down into quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods. I wanted to give you folks a slide where you can sit back and reflect. Take a snapshot of this slide and reflect on the difference between applied research and knowledge creation so you can really identify what the value of research is, what kind of research you need, but also how research can help you. More often than not, when edtech companies come to us, they talk about applied research. Some examples of applied research could be usability studies, could be market research, building logic models, or even conducting usability and feasibility pilots. There are some companies who also reach out to us with the idea of knowledge generation and think about, can my data provide more insight into students' task on behavior? Or can my product give us more insight into what is the ideal progression for mathematic concepts for 3rd graders? Now, these are great questions to ask, and both are equally valid. Which one applies to you depends on the question that you've asked. Now, look back at the questions that you wrote. Do they fit into one of these 2 categories? Can you classify them as formative research, where it's less resource intensive, more ongoing in nature, and you want to use that data to make your product better? You want it to be an ongoing episode. Or are you looking for research that's more along the lines of efficacy research, where you're asking the big question, how do I know my product is effective? Or for whom is my product effective and in what context? A summative research project gives you a snapshot. Of research is something that you're likely already familiar with. This classification is based on the methodology we're using, commonly broken down into quantitative, qualitative, or mixed method. Which method is most appropriate? Depends on your research.